flowers on either side of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and in the surrounding areas. And last year they planted these roses the day before I took my test, and I was out there on what we call a back to back. So that's 11 ceremonial uh, shifts in one day, 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off, and that's part of your test. Um, and I was out there, like I said, every 30 minutes on and off all day long. And the sun was coming down on these roses. And I just have this, very, very vivid memory of watching these roses bloom while I was able to protect and guard the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And that is just burned into my memory for a reason that I can't quite put my finger on, but it really is something special that I will take with me for the rest of my life.
Yep, a moment in
That's
time
awesome.
that you will always have. That's so special. Wow.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like you said, out of all the dignitaries and the literally the millions of people, that's your memory, and I think that's awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, that was a really, and like I said, I can't particularly link it to one particular person or event, but I just remember that, and I just think that it was incredibly special, and I'm not quite sure why yet. Maybe I'll figure it out later on, but it was awesome. So,
When I first read this question that Kenny wanted me to ask you about if there was, someone famous that you had seen or something that had come by to visit. And my first thought was like the reverse of that was like, well, how many famous people have been lucky enough to come by and see you? That's what I was
hmm,
thinking. Because,
sure.
when we think of famous people, we're talking about actors and, people who are just known for like an hour or a minute or a year or whatever. And I don't know. I feel like you guys are way more famous or should be way more famous than them.
Yeah, and I really do. I think everyone recognizes and appreciates that. But at the end of the day, really what that place is intended to be about, and what it should be about is the unknown soldiers, right? Because those guys, like me and like all these other soldiers and you and everyone else, they had their own plans and their own dreams and aspirations. And a lot of these guys served at a time when there was a draft, right? They didn't have a say in it like I did and like so many others did. And so they sacrificed their lives, and then they sacrificed their identities for the good of the country. And so I just think like nothing I could do would ever come close to the sacrifice and the just overall that these guys have
Yeah,
sacrificed
that's
for the
so
country.
humble.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I come from on it. I never felt like people that I always tell, my family jokes with me all the time. Some of them didn't get a chance to come down and see the changing of the guard while I was there. And my joke to them is always, we all kind of look the same. You go down there tomorrow, you'll see a guy who looks just like me. So we didn't miss much.
You've done a very good job of redirecting our attention off of you and really onto the tombs of the unknowns, and that's very commendable on your part. I know that's probably instilled in you, but I think personally you feel that way regardless. I,
Well,
I
I will
think
take
on
I will take the compliment, Kenny. Yes, I
Yep,
appreciate it.
yep, and congratulations to Kim for taking my questions and making me feel like total garbage too for asking if anyone has been there, a dignitary or something. Thanks to Kim for
Oh,
that.
hush.
But at least I've been there. At least I've been there. So
I
one more
know.
question.
It's
Yeah,
on my list.
Got you
I'll
there,
get
Kim.
there.
That's true.
yeah, yeah. She says that about Florida too, but that hasn't happened yet. So getting back to the tombs of the unknown. So you told us about the World War I veteran, but there's a story about the Vietnam Tomb of the Unknown. Can you talk about that?
Right. So I know that we're kind of more or less on a time constraint. So I told you guys that I had 17 pages of knowledge memorized. But the truth is, what I told you earlier about the World War One unknown and about how we got our start as guards is the first two and a half or 3 pages, right? The rest of it at the end of that so in 1984, after the conclusion of the Vietnam War, Congress says to the Department of Defense for the fourth time that they need to choose an unknown soldier from the Vietnam conflict and inter them in Arlington National Cemetery with the other three unknown soldiers. And so in 1984, they do that. That soldier is interred in May of 1984. Almost immediately thereafter, there is the family of a Vietnam veteran comes forward and says that she has the sister more specifically comes forward and says that she has some credible evidence to believe that soldier representing Vietnam is her brother. And so she goes through all the processes along with her family to try and get that soldier tested for DNA. And in 1998, at the time I was 2 years old. She, after testifying and petitioning Congress, she finally gets the clearance to have that soldier tested for DNA. And so in 1998, that soldier is disinterred and taken up the road to Walter Reed Medical Facility in Bethesda, Maryland, just up the street from here, was tested for DNA and was confirmed to be that lady's brother, First Lieutenant Michael J. Blassie of the United States Air Force. And so after having identified him, he was then taken to Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery in St. Louis, Missouri, which is also where him and his family are from. And he now rests there. And that center crypt has since been reallocated and re-identified. It now reads "Honoring and Keeping Faith with America's Missing Servicemen." And that is a tribute and an ode to all the unknown or unidentifiable service members from the various conflicts in which the United States has been engaged. Because, I think the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier gets a lot of attention, and so it should. But in Arlington National Cemetery alone, including those three soldiers there now, there are 4,725 unknown soldiers in Arlington National Cemetery. And so that center crypt is really memorializing them. Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea. And obviously I didn't pay attention when I went to Arlington National Cemetery, but I did not realize that. 4,725, you said?
That's correct. Yep.
That is heartbreaking. That is just heartbreaking.
I did not realize that. When at a minimum, there's that many families that do not know.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it really starts to put in perspective the sacrifice. Yep.
So you talked today about your service and about the selection process and the honorable job that you have and that you do. But you mentioned that when you were 8 years old, I believe you went on a field trip there. And what advice would you give someone today who wanted to get into the military or even try to do the same career path that you were able and fortunate enough to go down?
That's a really good question. And so I think that I would say, don't let people tell you no, that you can't do it, right? Don't. And I would also say that they should do a lot of research about what not only the tomb is like, but also what the military is like, and to take all the opportunities that are given to you when they present themselves in the Army and in the service in general, right? And so I guess I don't have a great piece of advice, but it's just like anything else. There are ups and downs, and there are all kinds of twists and turns. But I would say those are all for you and your development and where you're headed. And so take those as they come. Enjoy yourself, because this is an incredible opportunity that I've been blessed with over the past 2 years. I think that's it.
So I don't think you gave yourself enough credit. So when you said don't let people tell you no, it's probably some of the best advice anyone could ever give. And I can tell you that's probably will go a long way with a lot of people. So it was a good answer. When you guys are doing the 21 steps, back and forth for 21 seconds. So what do you think about? What are you thinking about during that time? Because we watched you do this, and where does your mind go? Because a lot of times when we're driving or when we're doing our jobs, our mind wanders, but you have to be precise with what you're doing 100% of the time. So what's going through your head when you're going back and forth?
The training that we go through, so before we're even allowed to go outside in front of the public and conduct the changing of the guard and walk the mat and guard the unknowns, there is probably on average about 2 months of stuff that goes on behind the scenes to get you ready for that, to include uniforms, but mostly that rifle manual that you saw me doing and the way that we walk. At night is your time to practice all that stuff when you're posted. At night, 2 a.m. when you're tired, that is the time to do all that. And so then eventually you'll be able to go outside and guard the unknowns during the day. By the time you get to do that, it is muscle memory, right? What you're doing is muscle memory. So you have the sunglasses on, right? And there's something very, I don't know. dehumanizing, I think, about sunglasses. I think that's where or why people are often very intimidated and scared by us. And sometimes I'll walk up to young kids who are laying wreaths and they'll just stare at me. They think I'm a mannequin, right? And we're constantly looking around to ensure the integrity of the plaza where we're guarding. But to tell you the truth, what I'm thinking about all kinds of stuff out there while I'm doing all that stuff. And it really, I'm counting in my head, and the counting is subconscious at this point. It's just so ingrained in me. I could count 21 seconds and sing a song. I could do anything, right? And I can also do that rifle manual, and I can also walk. And I really not think about it too much. That's something that is kind of trained into us that we shouldn't have to. By the time we're outside, out in front of the public, you really shouldn't have to think about what you're doing too much. There are little adjustments that you'll need to make here and there, like we talked about earlier about that picture that I'm so flatterously featured in. But there's little adjustments that need to be made. But generally speaking, that is, for lack of a better term, more or less mindless tasks. You're really focusing on is the integrity of the plaza. And, to be quite honest with you, there are times when I'm out there or when I was out there and I was thinking about, what I'm going to have for dinner that night or what I can't wait to go down and have a cup of water. There's all that stuff that goes through your head because, like I said earlier, we are people, they are people, and so as such, they have normal human thoughts and emotions and wants and needs, right? So, yeah, that's kind of the answer to that question. I hope it's not underwhelming, but yeah.
No, that's, I mean, honestly, I mean, it's, because you guys are so, ceremonial. It's like, I would be, honestly, and I know the training's ingrained in you, but it's like, it's, like you said, it's, robotic, and Kim, once you see it, you'll know exactly, what I'm talking about. But it was the highlight of my trip, honestly. 2 weeks in New York and a week in DC, and I can tell you it was definitely the highlight of my trip.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. We all are.
When I was talking earlier about if any celebrities had been lucky enough to see you, what I was getting at was that you really make it sober, you bring the importance of why you're there to the forefront by your formality and everything that you've been trained to do. And I feel like so many people in this day and age just lose the meaning behind what it means to be a soldier. And I wanted to say thank you again, and that I really appreciate the commitment that you and all those other guys, the 600 and some who have done it now, and the guys who are going to follow in your footsteps, to bring that to the forefront, to keep us all grounded and reminded about the importance of these guys that, sign that blank check to go into the military service and to be soldiers for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I will say that there is me personally, there's no need to thank me. I enjoyed every minute and it was my distinct honor to be down there. And so, thank you nonetheless. I appreciate it. And I know I speak for the rest of them as well. They appreciate that as well.
Great. All right. Well, on that note, as of today, how long have you been in the military?
I have been in the military 4 years and I believe 7 months now. Yeah. A long time. I didn't
Are you
realize it was
counting
that long.
every day?
No, I'm not. But I think I just did the math. Like I said, I was like, oh wow, that's a long time. But that was the first time I'd really thought about it in a long while. So yeah, it's been flown by.
Is it your plan to continue this career, or do you kind of maybe have some thoughts that you might want to move on to something else in the future, or do you even know?
So the honest truth is I don't quite know yet. I have aspirations to be an attorney, and so that's something I'm exploring very, very seriously. But I'm really enjoying where I'm at right now. I'm enjoying serving, and for the time being, I think that's what I'll continue to do.
That's great. Well, you're really well spoken, so you're definitely on your way to being an attorney already.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, very much so. When you ask him how much time he had left in the military, it was like 4 years, 7 months. It was almost like asking somebody how long they've been married. 4 years, 7 months, 5 days, 6.5 hours. Sorry.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So.
You got to be accurate, if nothing else, right?
This has been awesome, Chris. I can't thank you enough for your time. I thank you for your service. I don't I'm speechless. The fact that I'm actually getting to talk to you, because like she said, it is an honor to go to Arlington National Cemetery, and today you have reminded me, and hopefully everyone who listens that has had the